Right, guys, it's Saturday night. Arsenal and Manchester United are playing on Sunday. We're going to be having a look at the teams, how they think they're going to play, who's injured, and why I think that Manchester United simply could win this game. So, what I really wanted to do, guys, was take a look at the Arsenal side that just played Newcastle, and we're kind of going to talk about the positioning of the players, the formation, who was playing, and why it didn't work. And then if you kind of look towards the midfield here, we've got this kind of I view it as a four, right? So we've got this Erdegaard kind of provides this link between Havertz and Partey and Rice as well, because as we know, Rice plays far more centrally than say Footmob would have you believe, because they would line them up more similarly like this, right? So if we kind of look at it like this, with Erdegaard up top, Partey towards the back, and Rice kind of floating here in this kind of ball winning area with Partey, uh, that's kind of how Arteta wants his team to work right now, right? So he wants these two defensive midfielders to be monsters in the middle, winning the ball all the time, constantly, right? So that, I think, really did some damage to them, especially against a really physical Newcastle side where you're pretty much going toe to toe with Joe Linton and Bruno Guimaraes, right? So if you've got Bruno and Joe Linton on the ball, off the ball, against this team, right? So you've got these two players here in Rice and Partey who aren't particularly brilliant on the ball. I know people like to say Rice is quite good on the ball. I would tend to disagree. So we look at this, right? We've got this kind of four where Rice is going to have to pass the ball from himself to Partey to Erdegaard to Havertz, or Erdegaard to Trossard. Havertz makes a run, ball gets whipped into the box, and he's on the end of it, right? But what we're seeing an issue with is that Rice can't always play a progressive pass to Erdegaard. Arsenal's main problem is that they aren't getting the ball in enough space to Erdegaard because he is the main creator, right? So our issue is that we're trying to play through Erdegaard, but he isn't able to chuck it out wide to Martinelli because he is too busy tracking back due to the defensive nature of this side, right? So if Erdegaard can't give it to either of these two because they're usually behind him, or he's too far behind covering for them, meaning that there's a man, say, here. These are humans, right? They're not actually me moving them about. So it's more fluid than this would kind of allow you to see. But kind of what I'm getting at here is that we don't have, and I know Timber is good at it. I know he is, but we in this Arsenal side, pretending to be an Arsenal fan, but in this Arsenal side, we don't have fullbacks necessarily that are trained in the art of overlapping, bombing forward, providing a decent amount of cover for our two, touchline wingers. These are two wingers that are all about bombing down the wings. So what we're finding is that Arsenal are having to rely on Erdegaard to do everything in terms of on the ball. Havertz, no good on the ball. His build up play is all right. I know that's kind of what he's been brought in for, and that's kind of what he's being used as, is this kind of false nine to facilitate some form of 1-2, 1-2 go, or one and then over the top to Trossard, who runs on, right? Preferably, obviously, it would be Saka, which would kind of change things to where, and that's why it was working really, is we'd have this Saka. Let's pretend this is Saka. We'd have Saka here, and him and Erdegaard would play these lovely triangles, which would allow Saka to maybe cut in to here and take a shot. But like I just said, this isn't Saka, this is Trossard, which is who will be playing against Man United, which is why it's on it. So what is it that Arsenal can do to counteract this? Well, to start off, I'd say that we have to look at how Man United are going to play. And how are they going to play? Ooh. Now, the reason I'm so confident is this is how we're going to play, is because of the performance against Liverpool. Simple as. That performance was so good that even though Amorim's changing the starting 11 quite a lot, I am almost 100% certain that this is almost exactly what Manchester United are going to look like. And tactically, I think we already know. So, let's get into this, right? So, as we can see, we've got this lovely, lovely, lovely midfield pairing of Mainu and Ugarte. What we saw in the last game is that these two can actually make a really good team. With alongside Mazraoui and Dallo as their almost get out of jail cards, these two can attack the ball, provide pressure for the team as a whole. Obviously, midfields are what teams are made of, right? You know, you're only as good as your midfield, is how I always say it. But what these kind of wing backs here allow, which Arsenal don't have, is a really easy out to down the wings, right? So Dallo was really good at it against Liverpool. He was just receiving the ball, say from Mainu, possibly from Bruno, whatever, because Bruno, as we know, is dropping in to almost create a five in midfield, or a four if Ugarte kind of drops back here. But Dallo was receiving this ball. Let's just get the ball. Dallo was receiving this ball from, say, Mainu. He had Trent. Let's say that this is Trent, right? He had Trent here. Now, what Dallo was able to do is use the fact that not only does he have the pass back to Mainu as an option, but also the pass to Bruno as an option, which allowed him to not use the either and just knock it down here, make a run, ideally for Højlund to run onto a pass, right? This, however, as we know, didn't quite work that way. So, in principle, this kind of formation allows for really intense wing play. And the reason I think this is going to be used again is because we know that Trossard and Martinelli are poor defensively. That's kind of what we've just been discussing. We know that Arsenal are struggling for fullbacks. And we know that their midfield on the ball isn't the best. They're great at providing great at providing pressure onto the other team, really pressing aggressively. Thomas Partey, very physical. Declan Rice, very physical. Odegaard, obviously not so much, but he kind of plays in this Bruno Fernandes role. So what it's going to allow for is, even if Mainu and Ugarte are kind of being overpowered in the middle, they're going to be able to just spray it out wide. And we didn't get to see this against Newcastle. Why is this? Well, in my opinion, it's because Eriksen and Casemiro simply don't have that agility that's needed in an Amorim side to pick the ball up from Martinez or from Bruno or from whatever angle and go boom, out to the winger. And these are wingers, by the way. These are wingers. Bruno, especially Dallo on this side, is acting so much as a winger for Bruno to almost be in behind to try and play a slick little pass through to Højlund to run onto to hopefully knock it into the goal. But what changes will Amorim make? Now, we know that United had, I think it was 60% possession against Arsenal in the last game. So we know that possession shouldn't really be too much of a problem for this Amorim side, especially against Arteta Arsenal that are being so defensive. But I think that the change tactically that Ruben Amorim will make is, and it's very similar to what he has done in the past. I think he's going to try and create almost a back four at certain points throughout the match when we're kind of feeling it a little bit, when the wingers are tired. And I think he's going to try and allow, and this might look a bit strange, but I think he's going to want something along these lines there. He's going to want to use Dallo as the far winger, with Ahmad on the touchline and Dallo also on the touchline, in order to extend the pitch, stretch the pitch as much as possible. And what this is going to do is make it so that Højlund has, hopefully, far much more space to run into. Now, do I think he'll do this from the start? No, I think he'll do what I originally had of this. However, I think if maybe we go a goal down, if the lads start to get tired, this will be a change that he will make alongside subs. There's no point guessing subs. I think Xerxes probably going to come on, but I don't think there's much of a point in betting on those subs. So I think that we can kind of gather from this that Arsenal will struggle this game. And I think that Man United will also in certain points. I think Arsenal will certainly struggle in this game. And I think that a lot of that is going to come down to stretching the play and using the wingers. Through the middle, I don't think that Man United have the quality to play directly through Arsenal. I don't think they do. I think Partey and Rice will do a really good job of covering that centre. However, I think that the agility of Mainu, the eye for pass that Mainu has, which isn't the best in the world. I think that it isn't the best in the world, but I think he does have this really kind of innate ability to know where his man is. So it's not necessarily a. It's almost like he can read his teammates' minds at certain points, where he can't knock the ball to like a Trent does, but he can do this thing of I know where my man is. I can turn, give it very quickly. And I think that this is going to allow United to really kind of try and dominate Arsenal. I think that's what it's going to be. I think Amorim is going to try and dominate Arteta. Now, in terms of injuries, it's more interesting on the Arsenal side with Tomiyasu out, Ben White out, Saka out, and Nwaneri out. Now, these are huge, huge injuries which really could impact them going on for the rest of the season, let alone this game. However, I think that United need to just jump on this, take advantage of it, and I think they will. I think Amorim's got the kind of the this attitude of he wants to absolutely smash teams. He wants to really take advantage of their weak spots, and he's really good at doing that. Now, looking at Man United's injuries, it's actually not that bad. Luke Shaw, obviously, he's always injured half the time, quite literally, if not a bit more. We've got Victor Lindelof out, hardly makes much of a difference. And then we've also got Mason Mount out, which I think there's no surprise there. But I think really United, in terms of injuries, in terms of maybe form as well, slightly. I don't know. That maybe not. I don't know. But Man United are definitely looking like the aggressors going into this. It's looking like it's going to be, hopefully, a message of we're back, we're better, and we want to beat one of the big dogs in the league, which Arsenal technically are, even though right now they may not be. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.